Welcome to Connected Conversations. I am Elena Petrova, founder and CEO of Adastra Inc. Tune in as we share inspiring stories, connect with local heroes, and discover solutions that uplift us. Welcome to Connected Conversations with Elena Petrova. Thank you for joining us today. Let's talk about change, because change starts at home and change starts with local communities. One story at a time. And today I have Margaryta Suvorova. She's from Ukraine and now she resides in Washington, D.C. Our stories are about leaders who bring the change and positive impact. Margaryta, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. So, which part of Ukraine do you come from?
I came from Cherkasy. It's right in the middle, right in the center. It's about 3-hour drive from Kiev south. So that's my homeland, my home city. And then I also lived in outskirts of Kiev and Bucha before I moved to the U.S.
So that tragedy is very close to your heart.
Everyone knows about Bucha massacre, and I lived there for 3.5 years. Mm-hmm.
And so we will talk in details today about your community. And what community means to you?
Well, community, it's something empowering, it's where you feel united, where you feel belonging to something beautiful. And I always remember like someone told me that if you can break one stick, right? But if you put multiple sticks together, you cannot break it, right? It's a very famous idiom. And so community is something powerful when you have shared ideas and you can work together towards something beautiful, but you also feel comfortable and you have people who can help you with anything. So community it's like a family, that empowers you. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I like asking the same question everybody who joins me here in the studio. Language, how many languages do you speak, and what language, speaking a language, what it means to you? I particularly think that for Ukrainian community, Ukrainian language, I would think, and I'm curious to see what you say. It's something essential right now because it might be identity of your community right now, particularly with what Putin and the Russian invasion is doing to your community.
Absolutely. So I speak 3 languages fluently: Ukrainian, Russian, and English. I grew up speaking Russian mostly, and I explained to my American friends how big the Russian propaganda is, that even growing up in Ukraine, in central part, Russian propaganda was so powerful that they put in our minds that Ukrainian is a village language versus Russian is a city, it's a cool language. So even I, growing up in 90s, 80s, 90s, that's how it was in my home city in Cherkasy. Of course, everyone's different, but it was just in my case, right? And so just like you mentioned, language is an identity of the nation. And historically, that when someone invades another country, the first thing they want to do is take your language away, because this is how you represent yourself. And as you know, Russia historically has been always trying to destroy our language. There's more than 100 orders from Soviets historically to ban our language. They did everything possible to put it down, say it's not an existing language, it's a dialect or something broken Russian, how they said. And so, of course, when you grow up, you become more conscious about things going on. Right now, for me, Ukrainian is my identity, and I'm so proud of it. And actually, when I was even here in the United States, a lot of my friends, they only spoke Russian. And I remember I met two girls and they spoke Ukrainian. I was like, do you always speak Ukrainian? Like, yes, of course, it's our mother language. And we became best friends because I was like, I want to speak Ukrainian with you because I was forgetting my own language at that point. And it took me a couple of months to rewire my brain. So it was way before the full scale invasion. And it came back. You know, my grandparents are Ukrainian. So I would go to the village, speak Ukrainian, and then come back to the city, speak Russian, because in my school, they're like, oh, you're a villager, you speak Ukrainian. So this is how messed up it was. So now I'm proudly speaking Ukrainian, and especially seeing what is going on in Ukraine and how, you know, Putin, Russians, even now, US administration ties everything to the language, saying, oh, they speak Russian, you know, oh, it means a lot what language we speak. And it's a principle for me to speak Ukrainian now. And it's something that we carry with ourselves and how we represent and let our ideas out. So yeah, language is really important. And I used to be, when I studied in Ukraine, in Bucha, I was at the philological faculty, so languages. And it's fascinating. Like, our language is so beautiful and unique.
I'm glad that you brought your background. For our listeners, again, let's clarify, because I'm Russian. And so many times I'm being asked, oh, Ukrainian and Russian, they're practically the same. They're not. It's two different languages. You have that background as well. Would you mind to clarify how different those two languages?
Right. So I don't exactly remember the numbers, the percentage, but Russian and Ukrainian are more different than Portuguese and Spanish. It's like even more differences in letters and words. So it's pretty different, significantly different. And for example, a lot of Russians don't understand Ukrainian at all.
Correct.
I mean, I understand Russian because I grew up speaking this language, but from the standpoint of a philologist, it's a significantly different and distinctively language that just belongs to this nation. You know, of course, we have similarities. I mean, every country has similarities, like who neighbor with each other, but it's a pretty different language.
Absolutely, and a beautiful one too.
Thank you.
So now, I really admire every single time when you and I get together. I have to tell a little bit of a background to our listeners why I decided to bring Margaryta to our podcast, because this woman, there are a lot of us who jumped to help in any way that we could in the beginning of the war. It was a novelty. We all were touched by the Russian invasion. There were a lot of efforts to raise money, send supplies. All of us, practically in my circles,
It's like,
did
I want to
what
do
we
something.
could. We all wanted to do something, but then the novelty was gone, and you know, the kind of like the trajectory started going down. What I really really admired about Margaryta through from the beginning to the invasion up until today, you have been doing this nonstop. You have been raising money. You have been sending supplies to the orphanage organizations, medical
I think
supplies.
you would do the same for your
You've
country.
been you've been traveling to Ukraine pretty consistently, keeping in touch not just with your family but multiple organizations, Frontlines. In addition to that, you've been doing a lot of groundwork here in Washington, D.C. You have been protesting, you have been educating communities here, you've been calling congressmen and senators on Capitol Hill. I don't know if there is anything that you have not done, whether it was on Ukrainian side, Russian side, American side, and probably even other communities as well. How do you get motivated? Where do you get this energy? What drives you?
I mean, everything you mentioned, and I still feel like I'm not doing anything. You know, I'm not doing enough. I do have a full-time job, and so it doesn't feel like I do enough. You know, I was like, I wish I could just be full-time advocate for my country. But thank you for mentioning that. And motivation, I mean, this is your homeland. This is your identity. This is not just your family, your relatives. It's not just your friends. It's your identity. And I say that I hope never, like, people would never feel this. Like, I don't wish it on anyone. But when someone's trying to eradicate your identity, your nationality, then you just start doing everything possible to keep it alive. And you mentioned how at the beginning of the war, everyone's just like, yes, let's do things. And then everyone kind of slows down. I think it's just in human psychology, you know, motivation is one thing, just like with anything. Working out, you kind of like, I want to be motivated. Like, I put this picture, you know, and I want to be in a great shape. Motivation is one thing, but the core values, it's different. Like, what is really inside of you, your consistency, discipline, all of that, right? It's like human psychology. For me, it's just something, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I think it's just natural for me to do that. I don't know how to explain. I think it just comes from the heart, and there's no other truth, you know? So I think everyone would do what I did.
I will tell
Even
you,
more.
not everyone is doing what you are doing. I've known you for like several years right now, and you're very unique in this way. You really are. And you're saying that you're not doing enough. I think not that many people doing what you're doing.
My mom called me a couple of days ago. She's like, I'm just hoping you're not gonna go to Ukraine and join Ukrainian armed forces, like, knowing how passionate you're about Ukraine. I was like, let's not talk about it for now. Yeah, but I don't know. I've been always a passionate person. You know, I always wanted to help people, even when I was little. You know, maybe that's why I became a nurse. I always wanted to care for people who suffer, who need help. I always cared about environment and other important causes. And so this is just like, I guess, in my nature
So that's your
to speak for the
motivation.
truth. Yeah, justice, truth. Like, I want this world to be a better world. And I know maybe in my lifetime it's not gonna happen, but at least this is my little footprint. And, you know, we all do little things. Like, we don't have to change the world completely, but you're changing yourself by doing those little steps.
How was it? How was it growing up in Cherkasy? Did I pronounce it correct?
Cherkasy, yes, yeah. Well, my childhood was really simple. You know, I didn't grow up in a rich family or anything like that, so it was just, you know, school, and then going to the village, to my grandma's farm in the village, and spending summers and all holidays there, helping with her farm pretty much. And like, I went to circus studio as a teenager, you know, as a child, just to do some sports activities. I mean, looking back, my childhood was pretty cool, you know, as a child, because we were free. No, we didn't have babysitters, and we were always just doing whatever we wanted. No one kind of look after us in that way. But that's when you grow up and you learn how to survive in this world and do what you want, what your heart tells you to do.
And so you said that that was Cherkasy. You grew up with your family. With how many, do you have siblings?
I do have an older brother. Yeah.
Is he still in Ukraine?
Mm-hmm.
All your family is still in Cherkasy, right?
My grandparents and my brother. Thankfully, my parents left before the war, so I don't have to worry about them for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Bucha. What was your connection with Bucha?
So after high school, I moved there. There's a university, and I decided to study that. I don't know why, to be honest, because I always wanted to be in medicine. Like it was since I was a child. Like I played with little tubes and made fake blood with paint. My mom was a nurse, so I was really exposed to the hospital. She would take me to work because no babysitters. She's like, okay, come with me, and you know, while I work, you just sit on the nursing station. So medicine was always something on the back of my mind, but it just happened that I decided to study linguistics in the philological faculty, and I went to that university in Bucha. And my student years were there, and they were amazing. You know, it was back then Bucha just started growing. You know, it was like a really cool neighborhood outside of Kiev. There were lots of developments, buildings built, and I remember I was dreaming. I was like, you know, when I finish the school, the university, I'll buy an apartment in Bucha because it was so beautiful. Like the nature, parks, it's surrounded by beautiful forest, and everything is new, you know, and it was just getting bigger and bigger. And then I moved to the United States, and some of my friends who stayed there, they're like, this is one of the most wonderful small towns, outskirts. It's almost like I can compare it to Bethesda in Maryland in relations to Washington, D.C. So it was like a really cool city to live in. But when I was there, it was just developing, and I still loved it so much. So then when Russia started the full-scale invasion, and when I was seeing what they did in Bucha, I was horrified. Like it was just a knife in my heart to see. I mean, like every city, of course, but you know, I lived there, and I spent my student years in those streets that if you saw a picture of tanks and destroyed city, destroyed street with dead bodies, those were the streets I walked on as a student. And then to see that, it just, like, your mind can't grasp that horror. You know, you just see that and can't believe what is happening, that humans can do to other humans. Yeah, so
it's hard for me. It breaks my heart, and as a Russian, I'm listening to you right now. I can't stop.
I mean,
the emotions goes away. Just like as a Russian, I keep saying like
it's not easy.
It's like breathtaking. I keep saying like I apologize for everything.
Yeah,
that has been happening, and just all I want to say, I wish we could change things.
And I appreciate you saying that, because a lot of times, you know, especially right now when people view Russia and Ukraine, they're like, oh, you know, they're brothers.
No.
For me, it's, you know, again, Russian propaganda saying that, oh, Ukraine is our little brothers, you know, because they always tried not to respect our identity. It's something like, oh, a little bit there, little people, you know, if you look at media and shows and all the entertainment industry, they always were making fun of us. They now were like, ooh, Ukrainians, smart, intelligent people. It was always mocking us, kind of like, oh, little silly people there. But so it's really important that what you just said, because especially right now when I meet Russians, for us, and I can speak for a lot of Ukrainians, a lot of times when I encounter Russian people and I say I'm from Ukraine, they just like, and and they just speak English to me or something, and they don't say anything. So in my mind, I'm like, so what is your attitude towards me, towards this war, towards this invasion? But I have Russian friends, and you including, that verbalize their feelings. And I have a really good friend, Masha, and on the first day of the full-scale invasion, she called me and she's crying and she's apologizing. I'm so sorry what my country is doing to yours. I absolutely don't support Putin and Russia, and I will do everything to help Ukraine. And exactly what you just said. So that tells me, like, okay, I really appreciate it, and it makes me feel better that you actually understand what's happening and what side you're on, because there are sides, and for me it's black and white. And there were a couple of cases when I was out just meeting people, and same, I meet someone and when they hear that I'm from Ukraine, they express themselves like, I'm so sorry what my country is doing to yours. And then I meet someone else and they just look at me or turn away. And I'm like, so do you, like, I don't know what they're thinking. So just like for anyone who hears that, like, don't be shy. Maybe they feel embarrassed.
I think that's what I'm saying. Again, and I can't speak. I think
exactly.
Some people, I can't speak for all.
Right.
I think it's so difficult for some to process this and just actually say, you know what, we fucked up. We really fucked up, and we have to admit it. But like, until you actually admit it, you're not going to move forward.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have to admit, yeah, I mean, this is batshit crazy. What we are doing.
Yeah. So if you're out there and you see Ukrainians, show your support.
Yeah, I mean, there is no way around it.
And especially right now, when you look at what's happening in the United States, when now somehow they blame Ukraine for this, the current administration.
It's
like actually brought back the feelings.
And you know what, I also want to say that for many centuries, that expression was that winners write the history. The good thing is, though, that it's not any longer the truth, right?
Yeah.
At the point, because we write the history now. Because with the current social media, with all the posts, with all the pictures that are being uploaded live as we speak, so it's no longer the winners who write the history.
It's
like
like
us
human society.
as people. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think it's very evident what happened in Ukraine.
Oh yeah.
We know what
but
happened.
Then somehow cards are turned around.
Yes.
I know, I'm laughing. It's just probably some hysterical laugh, because there's like, I just can't believe this is the reality we live in, and this is what's being shown in the United States. Like, they just turn everything upside down.
I do not know. I think that we have our children are going to have children, and I don't know how you and I'm saying collective, how collective we are going to feel comfortable to not to admit what the reality is. And that's the reason why, again, you keep saying that you haven't done enough, but what we are doing is you are the leader, and you are the leader, and you are the leader that we need. Because again, this podcast about people who bring positive impact. And I personally, the reason why I started this podcast, because I do not believe that we are going to elect this wonderful president who is going to come and fix something within, like within one election. That doesn't happen like this.
Magic happens.
Yes, I believe that, I
wish.
believe that change is incremental, and change is collective, and it consists of multiple actions, multiple steps. And when people like you in multiple communities start driving it in one direction or multiple direction, but kind of like start aligning it together, that's when we are going to start arriving at the point where we need to be.
Absolutely. And for me, with nature of my work, and just, we live in a very social city, so I meet a lot of people every day. And when the full-scale invasion started, I really wanted to go to Ukraine immediately. I was like, I am a nurse. I want to go to Ukraine. I want to be in the field saving our defenders. But then my boss, she used to work for DOD, and she's like, Margaryta, I know what war is. Just stay here, be the voice, help your country as much as you can. Because you go there and like you just get killed. But then what if, you just get injured and your life is ruined or something like that. So back then I took her advice, and I was like, okay, I mean, this is it. I'm staying here for now, but I will do everything possible every day to help my country. So every day for me, it's for Ukraine pretty much. I mean, of course, I have to take care of myself because just like they said in the airplane, you have to put mask on first, not to go crazy. And this is the beauty I learned for the last couple of years. I learned to recover mentally from the stress, and this is very important because Russia wants Ukrainians whether to be killed physically or mentally. And for me, we are not going to allow this. Like, we're strong and resilient, and we will stand on our ground. We know the truth. And we're not going to break. They are not going to break us.
Yeah, and I admire that. The endurance is very high. And I want to come back to this because I want to hear how you do that. There is a lot our communities can learn from you.
Right.
Before we go, though, I want to hear from you. So first of all, how often do you travel to Ukraine? Because you do, and so many people are scared to do that. And that's one of the things that I admire about you, because you travel. And then also, let's go through a few things that you have done and keep doing. You raise money, and let's talk about this because maybe some of our listeners might be able to help you with those efforts. So then you also, you've been sending some supplies, and we would like to hear from you because, again, perhaps some of our listeners would be able to assist you with those efforts. Because you shared some information with me, and I thought that was incredible. I didn't know about this. And if you can share this, I would like our listeners to learn from you. Because again, this podcast is about different leaders from different communities learning from each other. So let's go through fundraising, certain items that might be necessary right now on the front lines, because you have this information. What else can we do that is necessary right now? How the communities are doing back in Ukraine, because you have this information. We know everything that is being told us on the news, that peace, whatever the peace is, nobody knows. I do not know what the peace is means, but we talk about these peace talks that's on the news constantly. You have you lost your friend, I know that, which I'm very sorry. Maybe you can talk about a little bit what people actually feel on the front lines right now, what they need right now. Can you share that information?
Absolutely. So, going back to, again, the beginning of the full-scale invasion and my travels to Ukraine, when that happened, it happened in February. And of course, we're planning the summer vacations. But when Russian fully invaded Ukraine, because actually the war started in 2014, that's when they invaded the east and annexed Crimea. And that summer, I was like, I don't want to be anywhere but my home country. Like, I don't care. I'm going. I don't care. There are bombings. I want to be home with my people. And then at the very beginning, my friend, she also went to Ukraine to volunteer. She spent that 2 months. It was a chaos. Refugees, children, no one knew what's happening. People are leaving the country, people are staying, moving to another city. So she spent 2 months in Lviv, it's a western city. And she came back and she says, I decided to help orphans because, there are so many volunteers helping refugees, soldiers, but orphans are not very well taken care of. So she founded her nonprofit organization based in DC because she's a U.S. citizen and Ukrainian as well. And that the first summer we went together, of course, like we were raising money, doing fundraisers to raise money for her nonprofit organization. And then we went to Ukraine in August and visited multiple orphanages, delivered supplies. But most importantly, her organization delivers psychological help to all these children. Imagine there are children whose father died in the front lines, and then this child saw his pregnant mom being killed by a bomb. So they regress. It's like one example. And we visited one orphanage in like Carpathian Mountains, and the manager, she said, she got a phone call, and they say, okay, just be prepared. You're getting around 130 children in the train coming from Kharkiv, the eastern city. And all those are orphans. And she was shocked. The age was from 0 to 4. So it's like 130 kids coming. And, throughout this whole years, more and more children become orphaned because their parents are killed or something else happens. So that work is really important as well. Taking care of the children, supporting them psychologically. We've seen amazing results with psychologists working with them, because regression in those ages is really a really big problem. They stop developing with this mental trauma, but psychologists help. So what my friend's organization does, they train psychologists, they train teachers who work with those children. They have one-on-one therapy, they have group therapies for those kids, because it's really, really important. And of course, supplying with food, supplying with toys, things like that, clothes, that's one thing. And, we have to take care of our children. They're our future. And as you know, Russia abducted more than 20,000 children from occupied territories, illegally stole them, and they brought them to Russian families and brainwashing them, turning them against Ukraine. And it's a known fact. And Ukraine retrieved some children, teenagers, and they were saying, like, they make them sing Russian anthem and say, Ukraine is not your homeland. There's like horrible stories, or you get beaten up, like kids. So so that's one thing. We have to help our children. And then of course, I say we have to help our defenders. because they're the ones who fight for our freedom, who protect Ukraine, the borders, who protect our families, and they're our gods. Yes, and we have to help them. So again, for me, helping them, everything I work, I donate. For Ukrainians, donating to our soldiers is like brushing teeth in the morning. You know, everyone does it. What do we need? Well, of course, like we cannot like send them ammunition, right? It's we need partners on the government level. That's why it's really important that we continue to ask the government to help Ukraine, to provide aid, military aid, weapons, to defend ourselves. But on a smaller level, like on just like what individuals can do, recently my friend and I, we were helping our friends who are in the war as well, and we were raising money to buy drones for them. We raised $16,000, but it's never enough, you know, like drones, it's a drone warfare right now. So they help collect data, see where the Russian positions are, but also, you know, defend, protect the front line. And I mean, there's everything. Tourniquets.
I remember you were
Yeah.
telling me the story with tourniquets. Can you talk a bit about this? Because you were giving me some percentages of people who die for bleeding simply because they cannot stop
Yes. And
bleeding on the field.
right. So it's a brutal war, and it's worse than Second World War because of all the drones, artillery, the way how Russians can reach destroy our soldiers it's really, really bad. And so that's why we need weapons again to protect ourselves. We need drones to protect ourselves. But also, obviously, there will be casualties and lots of injuries. So one of the most important thing is to provide tourniquets. And cat tourniquets that are made in the US, they are based, from what my friends in Frontlines, they said that they are the most reliable, they don't break, and they help save lives. You know, if someone gets injured, a couple of minutes, and if you bleed out, you're done. But if you have the good tourniquet, it saves your life. There were multiple tourniquets, there were multiple cases when tourniquets from China were used. You twist, they break, and then there's nothing you can do. So absolutely, like raising money to buy tourniquets from the US, sending it to Ukraine.
And just can you again, because you and I talked about it, and you say again, as a nurse, you're saying that each person needs to carry 4 tourniquets per person on the field?
Absolutely, just in case, because you have full limbs, and then if you want to help your friends, you know, who are injured. So yeah, it's not just one tourniquet per person. They need multiple, and they're expensive. It's depending. I tried to find the best deal, and I talked to this company. It was like $25 per tourniquet, and you know, we need thousands. I do also donate to one nonprofit based in the US. So it's really important, I feel like, to also know certain organizations based in the US, because people can write off taxes, you know, if you donate. And a friend of mine, he's from New Jersey. He also founded this nonprofit, delivers lots of supplies, drones, tourniquets, all kinds of medical equipment to Ukraine. And if you donate, he actually knows the ways how to double that amount through other organizations. So I can share later the organizations that really do a phenomenal job helping our defenders.
And we are going to put in the step notes of our podcast in the end all the sources of information that Margaryta will share with us for any of our listeners who would like to assist with Margarita's efforts. At the same time, if any of our listeners have additional resources that would like to contribute to Margarita's efforts, please do send us the information or comment in the comment section. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And it's really important to know that there's so many organizations, and sometimes people don't know who to donate to. And, people don't trust. But the organization I help, I know these people personally, so I can 100% trust them that you would do anything to deliver the actual help. It's not like, oh, I'm donating and then it goes somewhere, God knows where. So yeah, it's really important to know. Like at the beginning of the war, I didn't know, and I donated to Red Cross. And I was like, those money are gone and they never reached Ukraine probably. So yeah, it's really important to know the trust worthy organizations.
How I know that you keep in touch with people consistently. How do the communities feel right now back in Ukraine, and particularly on the front lines right now, with all the conversations that are happening here in Washington, D.C., with the end of the war, peace talks, and...
So I have a friend who's been fighting for 8 years now. Again, Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014.
Right.
And
I want to make it very clear, because again, there is a huge difference in understanding with what Ukraine is fighting for. Because for Ukraine, this fight has been
for centuries.
For such a long time, away prior to the, as Putin would say, special operation.
Yes. And it's a good point. I always tell my American friends, because like, why? What do they really want? Why? I'm like, okay, Russia has been trying to erase Ukraine for centuries. It's nothing new on a larger scale. Historically, they've been always trying to destroy us. So what's happening right now, it's actually not a surprise. They always they committed genocide, Holodomor, then fake famine, and my grandparents survived through that, and they were telling me stories how Russians would come and take your food, your grain, and then they would burn Ukrainian national clothes, vyshyvanka. They would burn Ukrainian national instruments. They tried to erase everything, like identity. They prohibited speaking Ukrainian. Everything was done. So what's happening now is not actually surprising. It's just shocking, because we live in such a modern world where we can see everything that's happening. And but yeah, what was the question?
Yeah, so I wanted to see, because right now there are all the talks here in US, and again, our President Trump is positioning himself in a way of facilitator as a end of war talks and peace talks. And of course, what we feel here is in Washington, D.C., even within Ukrainian community here, that I'm sure you're very involved, and the Russian community that I'm also hearing some sort of like wave movements. But I'm curious, what's the atmosphere back in Ukraine?
Yes.
What's the atmosphere on the front lines? Because you are in touch with the people who are actually fighting.
Right. So, of course, people are exhausted. It's been a long fight, but they are resilient. Of course, we want peace. We want victory. It's only fair, right? But, when I talk to my friends and I was like, see what's happening here in the United States. What do you think? What do you think about Trump? What do you think? What's happening? And my friends who are fighting in the front lines, like, listen, we have one task. We have to win. We are fighters. And at the end of the day, we have to rely on ourselves. That's our home. No one will ever care about Ukraine as much as Ukrainians, So like, and I'm amazed how strong they are, and absolutely they're exhausted. But they're like, well, we have to do our job to protect our homeland. So I was really impressed just talking to them, like, we have our thing, we have to keep fighting regardless of what's happening in the US, which is incredible. So that actually inspires me. And I'm like, oh, I'm so tired from this news. It's just like so heartbreaking. And then I look at my friends who don't sleep for days fighting, and then they're just like so strong. And I was like, oof, I have no rights to complain. I need to do what I can to help them. So yeah, it's been really tiring. And of course, like, if we talk about certain individuals, like, I mean, the whole country is really stressed. They don't sleep at night, like bombings happening every night, air raid alarms every night. So imagine for the last 3 years, you don't sleep at night. But when I was there in August, and I was in Kiev and Russia was bombing, like sending missiles, and I was walking out by those crazy explosions, just like went to the bathtub, and I'm like sitting, it's like, okay, so what do we do now? And I'm just sitting there with a pillow. And then the morning came, and at this point you cannot sleep anymore. I was like, what should I do? And I was like, okay, let me just get ready, go get coffee. I come downstairs of like my hotel, all these young people just like working, phone calls, looking beautiful. And I'm like, oh my God, this Ukrainians, they just resilient, they develop this resilience. Yes, of course, like if you talk to anyone, it's painful, it's hurtful, we are hurt, and we will be traumatized for I don't know how many generations after this. But the resilience that they show is incredible and inspiring. So yeah, that's why I look at my friends who are at home, and they inspire me to be a better person. So yeah.
Well, you inspire me to be a better person.
We inspire each other. It's a change.
Yeah, every time when I meet with you, you give me such a wave of positive energy, and I thank you for that. And now let's come back to here, US, because again, you've been demonstrating here. You've been going to. You said that you were planning to, or maybe you already been contacting to politicians here, asking for
yes, absolutely
change. So how that has been going?
I say, well, right now it's, where we live, it's like really hard because we do have a lot of support from our representatives in DMV. But I don't know how. I would say that every time I meet someone, again, being the voice of Ukraine, I say that we have a power, and while we have power here as citizens, we have to keep asking them, calling them, emailing them, getting meetings with them in Capitol, talking. Right now, what's happening is scary. What's happening here in the US is scary. And like we talked earlier, it reminds me about we becoming like Russia a little bit. And I think a lot of people are scared, the officials as well. But we need to keep to show them support, that people are behind their backs and we rule. You see, we forgot that citizens, we choose our representatives. They serve us, so we have to use that power and speak up. So I don't know how much is gonna help in the long term, but it might feel like you're not doing enough just calling them, but every little thing matters.
I agree.
Pick up the phone, call them, make an appointment to see them, say how you feel, say what has to be done, email, everything counts. You know, you plant little seed, and then maybe in a little bit, or in a year, in 2 and 5, it will grow into something, you know. But we cannot be passive. We have to be active, proactive, and do things. And one of the things is just call your representatives, speak up, go to protest. Don't just stay home and sit and wait for the miracle to happen. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't, because if we don't, well, take a look where Russia is today.
Exactly. Like I explained to my American friends and clients and anyone I meet, it's such a fine line when people are like, oh, I'm out of politics. It's just too stressful. Yes, I know. I wish I could just relax and go drink pina colada or margarita on the beach, you know, and not worry about this. But what future do we want to live in? Like for children, what do we want to create? We have to do those things to create a better environment, better society, and better country for us. And to be respectful and loving, have freedom of speech. That's one of the beautiful things that I appreciated in the United States. Now I feel like it's being taken away from us. So we have to speak up while we can, because again, like you remember, you know better than me, in Russia, when Putin came to power, people were scared. People didn't want to say anything. They're like, oh, I'm just going to do my business. I'm just going to, you know, be out of it. And then look, 20 years later, dictatorship, terrorist country, killing and invading not only other countries, their own people. Like the moment you say something, you're done. Like that is scary. So do we want to have that or
and
not?
it's moving, and the thing is that it's being introduced slowly, the way that society gets used to it. And
I think it's actually introduced really fast to
Well-
the point that society is like, oof,
it's
they're
first,
shocked.
yeah, but that's what I was just thinking about it. It's first society gets shocked, but then you get, you know, that's what we call hyper-normalization,
Right.
So it's just kind of like the first stage you get shocked, and then you just get kind of like immune to it.
It's like, okay, I guess this is it.
Yeah,
This is what...
that's what it is. And so that's why I'm really worried that we are going through this stage of shock right now. But I'm really talking to all my friends right now, do not get used to it, because I have been through it. I
You don't want to go through this
I do
again.
not want to go through this again.
Yeah.
So what I would like to ask you, two things. First, give us a tip how you stay calm.
Sane.
Insane, yes.
Yes. For me, I've always been into mindfulness even before this full-scale invasion, and I was doing lots of meditations, yoga. I worked with a therapist at some point, actually twice, and then it's just like all those bits of information that you gathered throughout your life. So when it happened, like the full-scale invasion happened, oh my gosh, like first half a year, I thought I was depressed. Like I've never been so low in my life. I didn't want to see anyone. Outside of work, I would go to work because my boss, I remember, she said, it's like, do you need some time off from work to relax? I'm like, how can I relax when our people are fighting 24/7? Our president is fighting 24/7. I was like, I have no rights to rest. But then I remember I was like being so depressed, didn't want to go out, I just wanted to come after work, close my blinds, and just lay in bed and cry. That's how bad. And I'm usually a cheerful, happy person. So then remembering all the tactics or exercises, how to get out of that hole. First of all, just like you said, community. When Russia invaded, I literally moved to my best friend's house and we slept together for like first month. Feeling someone with you, having best friends who support you and you support them. It's like they support you, you support them, you feel good, you know? So the community, right? You have to find people to talk to someone. Like even talking to someone is a therapy itself. Then, of course, I signed up for another therapy. So I was working with a therapist for a couple of months, which helped a lot. Just again, figure it out and talk it out and see what can be done to support ourselves, like your own mind, and of course, breathing, meditation. Uh, from a medical standpoint, breathing calms you down and just releases all the good hormones, calms your nervous system down. So I try to wake up in the morning, and especially now, like, of course, I'm always on the phone checking the news, which is like not as good, but now I try first thing in the morning, I wake up, drink water, and breathe. Deep breathing, use your diaphragm. It really helps. Do some yoga, exercise. I always say when you're stressed, first thing, go do 50 squats and then keep stressing about it. But then when you do 50 squats, you're like, okay, you know what? Like, let's not put all these emotions into that. If, like, your body releases that bad energy. So yeah, being just, the big thing is meditation and breathing. When I had a couple of, I would say, anxiety attacks, like after coming back from Ukraine, and because you don't sleep there, like the bombings and all of that, but you don't feel it when you're there. When you come back here, and there is in a way some kind of guilt that you're not there while your friends are suffering. That's something I've been also working on. I was like, no, it's not right to feel guilty. I'm here, I'm helping, and those negative emotions that just break you down, so we can't have that, trying to get rid of that. But when I came back, I had couple of days of anxiety attacks. It's like when you can't breathe. It's nothing like acute, but you just catch yourself not breathing at all and being in this state that you can't explain, but something's wrong. And I remember what I did. I just turned like nice, peaceful music, and I had to do breathing for 45 minutes. And then I was like, okay, now I'm coming back. So yeah, those sport, meditation, breathing, community, psychologist, and you'll be fine.
It's wonderful. Thanks again. You are one strong woman.
Thank you.
Very admirable. And to our listeners, if you would like to get in touch with Margaryta and get involved, we will provide all the necessary information. And Margaryta, what is needed right now if we need to assist you in any way?
Again, drones, tourniquets, like to be more specific. I think this is the most important things that would be beneficial. And then I know volunteers in Ukraine, they medications, there are multiple organizations that deliver medical equipment to Ukraine, medicine, antibiotics, painkillers, it's pretty much everything. But I would say, to be more exact, drones, tourniquets. It's just something that we can do on our level, I would say.
And again, drones to collect information, tourniquets to save lives from bleeding on the field.
Yes, I say when it was interesting when we were raising money for the drones, it's like you cannot do a fundraiser on GoFundMe for the drones because it's considered as like supporting the war. So they don't want us to do that. And, I'm not going to lie, I'm raising money for the drones. I'm not going to say it's a humanitarian help. So I noticed when I I was asking people to donate to orphanages, no problem, easy day. Everyone wants to help kids. But when I asked to help raise money for the weapon, like, or drones, something like that, people like, oof, I don't know. And it's like, but why? The orphans are orphans because we don't have drones, because we don't have means to help. Again, if someone out there listening and they have power to influence the government and help us with more weapons to defend ourselves, ammunition, anything, please, by all means, do that.
And we'll provide again information to contact Margaryta. Please feel free to
I'm happy
continue
to help.
the conversation going. Thank you, Margaryta, for everything that you do, and thank you for standing up for your communities.
Thank you for everything you do, and thank you for standing with Ukraine in such difficult times and showing your support. It's really, really important. It means a lot to us. I always say, for Ukrainians to help our country is, it's what we do, right? But when I see Americans, Russians who help Ukraine so much and do everything possible to help, like, I'm crying. The last time I went to a rally, like peaceful meeting in front of the Capitolium, and we were asking, please stand with Ukraine, don't abandon Ukraine, because what's happening right now is just heartbreaking to see that now the biggest ally of Ukraine is turning its back. So we're asking, please stand on the right side of the history. And when I went there and I just saw Americans coming with Ukrainian flags, and I think like emotions that I was kind of accumulating, and seeing Americans helping or Russians, it's just so important and so meaningful. It's like 10 times more powerful than when Ukrainians help, because it's not your country. Like, for us, it's like that's normal. For you to help another nation to survive, that's oof, it's incredible. So thank you.
But for us, I think, well, for me personally, I do believe that we should take responsibility for what we do, because that's how we explain it to our children. And it's also community.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one community helps another community. It's also you would do the same for us.
Absolutely.
That's what we are here for.
I remember before the war, I was helping refugees in Afghanistan, and I felt so bad. We also were bringing clothes and sewing machines to the women, because you can't donate money because it might go to the warlords. And I just remember, wow, I'm so grateful that my country is at peace and I don't need to do this for my country. I felt so bad. And then, of course, now I'm like, oh my gosh, this is now I need to do this for my own home. But yeah, I think it's such a privilege and a blessing to be able to help other communities, other countries. And my heart goes out to all countries and nations that are suffering from invasions, bombings, wars, and things like that. So yeah, it's not just Ukraine, it's a lot of other countries and people who suffer from other people.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Margaryta, for today's conversation, and it's really inspiring. And thank you for joining us. Please keep the conversation going. Leave a comment in the comment section and let us know what's the next topic you would like to discuss. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Thank you for tuning in into Connected Conversation. As we continue on our first year, we are incredibly inspired by the potential of positive change within our communities. We invite you to be a part of our conversation, and we invite you to be a part of our journey. Please subscribe to our podcast to stay updated on our latest episodes. Your support is incredibly invaluable. It will help us to grow our community. We also encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments of each episode. Your feedback will help us to create even more meaningful conversations. We can inspire the change and connect with each other one conversation at a time.